Okay, we're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are Chris and Susan Beasley. We are your hosts on 1010 Formula tonight, our Monday night team training spot. Now, we always try to have some fantastic and exciting guests who will share their specific trainings and experience to help you in building your business. That's our whole intention. And although this originally started out as being our specific team training, it's expanded and expanded and expanded, so much so that we have hundreds and hundreds of people join us on our live on a Monday night and also watch the replays, because it helps any entrepreneur in any kind of business, because the training really and truly is applicable to everyone. Now, before we start, I'm going to tell you that the two people that we have on with us tonight as our special guests are Amir Mahmood and also William Wood. Now, both of these guys are, shall we say, hypnotists by trade,
by profession,
for want of a better word, and I can vouch for that. And in fact, I'm going to be.
I'll let you. Shall I tell the story?
Chris will tell you the story, because if he doesn't tell the story, these guys are going to share it anyway.
No, I'll tell you. Now, this goes back to, it's about a year ago. In actual fact, I think we were in Denver in the July. In the June, we'd been to Miami, and we'd been on a course with Dave Wood. And Dave Wood had done, in a small room, he'd done a room, I don't know, state change, hypnotism, whatever you like to call it, anyway.
And Amir was on stage with him.
Yeah, Amir was on stage with him. But when Susan, when it was finished, she went to Dave Wood and she said, "Dave, it doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. I can't be hypnotized." That's the word she used. "I cannot be hypnotized." And Dave Wood said, "Okay, well, one thing I've learned from that is that I have to explain to people that when you do a room state change like this, it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. So thank you for that." Well, we then went on and we went to an event in Denver the following month, and we've known Will and Amir for quite a while, and as Susan said earlier, they're both hypnotists. And she was sitting there and we were having a chat to Will, and I explained this story. Susan said, "Yeah, I can't be hypnotized." And then Amir turned up and we're sitting there having lunch, and they said, "Would you take part in an experiment, Susan?"
Not him, me.
Susan. And so Susan said, "Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah, what's the experiment?" She said, "Well, we're going to go to a room up the back where it's quiet, and we just want to prove to you that you can be hypnotized." And she said, "Yeah, that's fine. It won't work." Now I went there and I was present, and I was watching, and literally these two guys just sat. Susan sat here, and one sat on one side and one sat in front of her, and they just started talking to each other. It was, to me, you know, when musicians get together and there's nothing planned and they have a jam, they jam together and music comes out and all that sort of stuff. Well, that's exactly what these two guys were doing. Okay, it was like a hypnotist jamming session. And of course, Susan got hypnotized, although she didn't know it. And she woke up and had a chat and said, "No, it didn't work." And so they hypnotized her again. And she still doesn't think it happened, but I can absolutely 100% assure you that it did.
So why are we sharing this story? Well, because it's always good to add proof to anything. And what we can tell you is these two guys have now put together their skills to help entrepreneurs just like you with various skill sets around building your business. And one of the things that we all know is quite difficult for first-time entrepreneurs is to understand what target marketing is and how you can actually build that relationship with a list of subscribers. Now, we're not going to go into depth about that because we've done that on some earlier trainings, but we've invited them along tonight so they can give you a real and clear insight into that and how you can use language and all that kind of thing to actually make those sales that you've been waiting for because you haven't known quite how to do it right. Now, I'm going to be very careful here because I'm a bit scared that I might be hypnotized, but actually, no, you won't be. But I might just put these on just in case as we call out Amir and Will just to introduce themselves and get underway. So, are you there, guys?
Yes, we are. Can you hear us?
We can.
Nice. And yes, I am here as well. It's very good to see you guys, and I will say that session that we had with Susan was super entertaining. And you know, I won't talk too much about it, but I remember that at one point she was almost falling off of her chair. And you know, mouth was hanging open. There wasn't any spittle coming out. She's very well controlled that way, you know. And I mean, it was just like a thing like this. And then she'd come back up and say, "No, I wasn't hypnotized." And then we'd like say, "That's right." And she'd go, "Oh," and right back down about 3 or 4 times. And I think by the end she was finally aware that she was hypnotized. But this is a brilliant example of how someone can actually have something happen to them, not realize that it's happening, and yet still benefit from it profoundly. But also, Chris and Susan, I just wanted to say that I am super honored to be here and speaking to your audience. I think we have some real value planned for everybody tonight, and I'm really looking forward to sharing some hypnotic secrets that should help you in your marketing. But Amir. Here we are, and now, first off, just a quick sound check. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
We can.
Okay.
Amir, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I would love to. So, hi, my name is Amir Mahmood, for those of you who don't know me. I've actually, came around. I started doing hypnosis a couple years back, and I was good at it, and I was working with clients, but I kind of wanted to get out of I'm in an office all the time coaching people, and I just wanted to take my business all around the world. I started doing coaching over the phone. I started getting involved with online marketing, started getting familiar with it. I looked up to Chris and Susan Beasley as one of my first mentors getting into this industry. I was looking up at them like, how are you doing it? And they were just like, it's easy, And today, I look back at last year and I go, well, it's actually a lot easier than I thought. And so on today's training, Will and I have this promise for you, and this promise is that if you've never gotten clear on who your target customer is, who you want to be working with, and why you want to be working with them, and what problems they have, and how you can solve those problems, by the end of today's training, we're going to get really perfectly clear. We're going to give you questions that you can answer. We're going to give you strategies to sit down and think and ask those questions and get very clear on it, because Will and I are coaching people in this industry, and we're finding, and Chris and Susan and Beasley are doing a phenomenal job, and we're finding all the same problems. There's a lot of people here who are watching this training going, I'm marketing online, I'm trying to sell product, I'm trying to get people on my team, but there's no one that's joining. And the reason why is because you don't know who you're talking to and the message that you're sharing with them. So tonight we're going to get perfectly clear on it. We've got a strategy in place. And so before we dive into all of that, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter if you've ever done online marketing before or not. This is easy if you know what to do, right? If you know what to do. And I'll tell you what has happened consistently was I've tried to do like something online in a new and different way. Right? And when you start doing it in new and different ways, you'll start to find it is a lot easier than you can imagine. So with that being said, let's dive in. Anything you want to say, Chris and Susan?
No.
Yeah, bring on the dogs.
Dog training.
Yeah, this is awesome. Well, actually, they were saying, like, could you not use the whole dog training metaphor? And I was like, what are you talking about? But evidently, some of you have heard the dog training metaphor a bunch of times. But I actually do want to say something just real briefly, just to back up and tell a story just real fast. And that is that when I first got into the hypnosis business, it was my mission really to help people make personal breakthroughs. And I got very, very good at marketing that offline. And about 2 years ago, I went into the transition of trying to market hypnosis online, and I had absolutely no idea what I was doing, and I found that I was spinning my wheels, and there's just a couple of ideas that once you get them, it was like, for me, the light went on, and everything all came together. And now, it's the main way that I market my practice. Obviously, Amir and I we're doing business coaching now as well, and it's the main way that we're getting our clients, and really there's just a few simple ideas that can almost instantly turn everything around for you. So if you're looking to expand your business, whether you're a coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're in a home-based business opportunity, there are just absolutely simple ideas that can turn everything around. And the first one is getting very, very clear on who your target audience is. And so let's talk about that for just a minute. A few years back, I was in fact, it was almost 18 months ago now. I was at a conference, and a guy stopped me in the hallway, and he knew that I was there, and I was teaching people some of these hypnotic marketing strategies, and he said, Will, hey, you're that hypnosis guy, right? And I said, yeah. And he says, well, I want to get rich. And I said, okay. What do you mean by rich? And he's like, stinky, filthing rich, I think is what he actually said. And I said, okay, well, who are you marketing to? And he says, well, I want to market to other people who want to get rich. And I was like, okay, well, who specifically? And he's like, people who want money. And I was like, okay, that's nice. Who specifically that makes money do you want to market to? And he goes, people with a big dream and want to make a lot of money. And for about 5 minutes, we just spun around and around and around on this. And finally, I just had to tell him. I said, you have no idea who you're marketing to, do you? And then he said, no, not really, right? And this is the condition of almost everybody that we find when they're brand new. Now, the good news is with just a little bit of education, you can come around to have a deeper and broader conversation with people. Because ultimately, when we get into hypnotic marketing and getting your list to respond and getting people to open up emails, it has a lot to do with writing something that's compelling for them. And the only way to get compelling to them is to actually know who it is that you're marketing to. So if right now who you're trying to market to is anybody in the universe that needs to make money, or anybody in the universe who who wants to make more money, that's probably too broad a demographic. And the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to narrow that down and get it really, really dialed in. And I know Amir has some things that he'd like to share about that. But Amir, what do you have to say about that?
I think you said it perfectly. I think a lot of times people walk in just when they're new, they think that if they just open up the doors to marketing to everyone, and they fail to niche down to a specific type of person, right? And they think that if they niche down, oh no, I don't want to not serve those people. I want to serve these people. I want to serve those people. I want to serve those people. So you do want to serve everyone, and guess what? Later on you can. But at the beginning, it just creates too much work for you to start getting things rolling in your business. If you can hone in on that single niche, like Will and I are about to share with you, and you focus in on that, and you start creating sales, you get some ahas, you understand how it works, then you go, okay, how do we add an additional niche to that? How do we add an additional niche? So when we're saying niching down to a specific group, and we're going to explain what we mean by that, that's only at the beginning, just so that you have some traction, so you can have some motion in your business. Later on, you can include more. I think one of the mistakes that I had when I started my hypnosis business was I said, I'm going to market to everybody. I'm going to do stop smoking. I'm going to do weight loss. I'm going to do stress. I'm going to do phobias. I'm going to do whatever the problem is. I can fix it, right? And I was just like, rah, I know hypnosis, right? Which is not really the right attitude to walk into this whole thing. But of course, I was young and I was new and I was excited, and I walked into it. And what I started to work with was a lot of overwhelm. As soon as I started putting some marketing together for smoking, I'd get a weight loss client, drop everything I'm doing, start working with a weight loss client, and then as soon as I go, oh my God, there's a potential for me to get this, there's this workshop on stress. Oh, let me just drop this here, let me go over there. And I continued to scatter myself for, I think, a good year before I took a step back and going, okay, why don't I build out one piece at a time systemize it, get it working, and then keep my business growing. And I think that's really the ideology. So don't feel like we're telling you that you can only commit to one and you're married for life to that one niche. You know what I mean? You're really just getting involved into it enough to get the ball rolling. Once you get the ball rolling, it's time for you to say, how do you systemize that? How do you actually get yourself out of that? And how do you have an automated business system around it? And how do you go ahead and step into another thing, another niche, and bring in more people? And if you guys can take that into perspective, don't feel like you're going to lose something. Because I felt like I was going to lose money if I did this. In fact, they say niche to get rich, right? So niche down, get rich in that area before you step into another niche. So Will, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I want to give a really concrete example, and it has to do with dog training. No, I'm kidding. Evidently, whatever this magic dog training example is. No, but I want to give you an example about Facebook, because, and I call this the Facebook strategy to getting rich, right? But I may get some of the details wrong. If some of you are like Facebook historians out there, you can correct me later on. So this is like reality according to Will. So take it more like a metaphor. But when Facebook first came onto the scene a few years back, I mean, for those of us that are like old enough to like clearly remember that, MySpace was the big social media behemoth at that time. It's like they owned the entire market, and so Facebook came along and basically they said, well, we want to make our little market here. And so what they did is they had this giant market, which was the social media market, and they said, well, what piece of this social media market can we absolutely own? Well, they were all Harvard students, so they said, well, we're going to own the Harvard campus. And so they took this giant niche of social media and they said, we are going to own just this little slice of the pie. So what are we talking about? We're talking about, demographically, we're talking, 90% of Harvard campus is, the students there are probably somewhere between 18 and maybe 30 or something like that, right? Maybe a few older students in some of the professional programs like the law program or the business program. But largely we're talking about a younger demographic. So they said, inside of this 18 to 30-year-old demographic, what is it that these people, want and need? What are their biggest desires? What are their dreams? What are their hopes? What are their fears? And so what do they want out of a social media platform? And so Facebook narrowed it down just to look at that specific audience, and then they built a platform that would serve the needs of just the Harvard campus students. And because they did that, what they were able to do is they were able to really zero in and find out what were the drivers that were keeping people awake at night, what were the things that people wanted, what were their hopes and dreams. And so they made a product that was perfect for Harvard campus. Within months, they owned 90+% of the social media activity at Harvard. Once they had Harvard completely nailed down, then they had the ability to go out and to look at other campuses. My memory is that they next went for several of the major Ivy League schools here in the United States, and I forget which ones. I think Yale was one of them. I think Princeton was one of them. It might have been Stanford, but they may have waited to head over to the West Coast for a while. So they targeted like 3 more campuses, and they said, we are going to own 90% of these 3 markets. And they went in, and for a period of months, they interviewed students, they found out about what are their hopes, their dreams, their fears, their desires, what do they want in a social media platform, found that out, and then delivered the product, rolled out the product to these campuses, focusing all of their marketing efforts on just now Harvard and these 3 additional campuses. And before long, within a period of months, again, they own 90% of those 3 markets. Well, then at that point, they said, we can own now the college market. And then they rolled out their marketing, they expanded their marketing net, and they said, we're going to go for all the college-age kids. I remember when this happened because I was in graduate school. I was enrolled in my MBA program, and I remember when somebody said, hey, do you have a Facebook account? And I was like, Facebook? What's Facebook? They're like, it's like MySpace, but MySpace is for those younger kids, and Facebook is like for us college students. And I was like, oh, cool. Like there's like, because I'd never do MySpace. It's like, a kid thing. But like I'd totally do like something that was really more aimed at college students. And so then I went in, and that's when I got my first Facebook account. Was when I was in when I was in college, and they were exactly targeting me, right? Me and my demographic. Well, then they owned the college scene. Then they went on and they said, now, we have this, big demographic that we own, which is the college campus. Now let's go after high schoolers. And they went after high schoolers. Then they went after the people that were like post-college. And now Facebook owns the social media universe. I mean, they are by far and away the most successful social media platform out there. And they got rich by narrowing down the demographic so that they could really understand the person that they were communicating with. And you may be asking, well, Will, what does this have to do with me? Obviously, I don't run a big social media outfit. What does this have to do with me? I've got a home-based business opportunity that I'm promoting, or I've got this internet affiliate marketing idea that I'm promoting, and how does this relate to what I'm doing? Here's how it relates. It may be true that on some level, what you're doing is targeting the entire universe at large. But the reality is you will never be able to communicate with them effectively until you narrow down your marketing, until you have a very small demographic where you can know several things. Where you can know what are their dreams, what are their hopes, what are their fears, and what are their desires. Once you do that through your marketing, you then have the ability to become exceptionally compelling. Exceptionally compelling. Before that, you're talking in such a broad generality that you don't know. So, for example, let's say that you're in the home-based, the home-based business niche, and you're promoting, I want to help people make money online. That's like Facebook in the beginning days when they were a teeny tiny company, just a thought in Zuckerberg's head, going after the entire MySpace market. MySpace would have crushed them. You've got to pick your campus. So, for some of you, your campus might in fact be, I'm going to go after single moms between the ages of 25 and 35 that are struggling because they're in minimum wage jobs and they really want to be able to send their kids to college, right? Something like that. That would be an example of really niching down so that you can speak to one audience effectively. Another example, you might say, well, I'm an ex-corporate guy who hated his job. So I'm going to target the 40 to 50 year old demographic that's working in a cubicle type job that absolutely hates what they're doing for a living and wants to live their passion and wants to be able to produce a second income online. That would be a second example of a campus. Third idea, picking your campus like Facebook did, would be saying something like this, like, well, I'm a retired person. I'm 60 years old. I just put in 30 years with the government or 30 years with a big corporation, and I'm worried that I'm not going to have enough money for my retirement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to target people in the 50 to 65 age range that is looking to retire but is worried that they really don't have enough money in their retirement. That's an example of narrowing it down and picking your campus so that you can effectively target these people. Again, why to do that? Because ultimately, to do effective marketing, you've got to be able to speak to people in a way that they can, easily understand, what kind of benefits you have for their situation. So, before we go on, I know Amir probably has a few thoughts around that, and then I think that we should probably move into the second phase of what we're talking about. But from a big picture, just to recap, the very first thing to do to get people to respond to your emails is actually to know who it is that you're marketing to, so that you can deliver a message that matters.
So, yeah, I forgot to unmute myself. So, exactly what Will said. I think it was spot on. He gave exact, clear examples of different people, like, hey, people who are looking for a retirement fund. Right now, one of our clients is actually getting a group of people within that age range from like 50 to 65 who are consistently messaging her saying, hey, what are you doing? How do I get involved with what you're doing? I need to make money for my retirement. I'm looking for a way out, right? And when you have a person like that, how easy is it for you to sell something? It sells itself. So I see a lot of times where, you know, if you're not clear, it sounds like you're almost forcing your product or your service or your business onto somebody, when you could just take a step back and say, hey, look, here's a problem, here's a solution, guess what, here's one of my solutions. And I think another thing that Will was talking about is not only identifying who that target customer is, but consistently getting leads every day within that area, that demographics. There's only one way for you to get 90% of Harvard University to capture all that social media traffic through Facebook. That only happened because consistently there were new people every day joining the platform. There was consistently people interacting on that platform. There was activity happening. And so when you're starting a business from scratch, especially online, there's no activity. You have to create it, right? And this is why you actually get paid the big bucks. You get paid the big bucks to create the interactions. I think one of the things that we do is we do like these team training calls. This allows people to come together, right? This is why we're perceived the way that we're perceived, is because we create the space where interactions occur. So a lot of times it's just as simple as saying, okay, I don't have some of the pieces together, but I do know who I want to market to. What can I consistently offer to that group that will continually bring in that new stream of people who are interested and curious in what we're saying? And when you have a consistent base coming in consistently, what starts to happen is you don't get desperate when you're trying to make money, when you're trying to make sales. I'll tell you what happens is you have more customers that need problems solved than you do have time. And that's where your business turns around from being, oh, what do? I don't have enough time. There's nobody who wants to buy. And it gets transformed into this experience where, oh my God, there's like 50 people right now who need my products and services. I need to get on a webinar and present what I'm doing so enough people can join. And so that's what happens when you actually have enough of those people coming in. And they're opening your emails, they're clicking through, they're responding, and that all happens because you know who your target market is, you know what message to consistently give them, so that way it consistently feeds back. Now, a couple areas of different target markets. One of them are, just like Will said, is this could be your single mom. This could be your newborn mother, right? I mean, newborn mother. This could be the mother with a newborn child, right? I see Susan there is like, that's right, right? Where they want to stay home with their kids, right? They want to spend time with their kids. It's not because they're looking to make more money. They're looking to make money in a different way. And see, so this kind of person, if you talk to about getting rich, they will actually get turned off because that's not their value. Their value is being with their kids. Now, when you know that, you can create an ad. You can say like, you know, looking to spend more time with your family and get paid doing it. Whoa, that will attract that person. But guess what? The person who just wants to get rich on the internet will look at that and say, that's not what I want, right? And what you're doing is you're allowing your marketing to compellingly repel people you don't want to speak to and attract people you do, right? And that's what I think one of the interesting things was that Will and I, we put up an ad a couple of weeks ago about hypnotically selling, and we've got some people on there who are like, isn't that rude? Isn't that mean? Isn't that, you know, like, isn't this cynical that you're using the power of hypnosis to like force people to buy stuff? And Will and I, we just said, well, clearly he's not within our target market, you know, and it stirred up some noise on Facebook. People are commenting, people are opting in, and it's great because every time there's a person there who's been repelled by what we do, there's also a group of people that are also attracted. So, and this goes down to niching again, right? You're not trying to make everybody happy. Business isn't about making friends with people. Business is about attracting the people who want your product or service and then providing it to them and presenting it in a hypnotic, compelling way that when they see it, they take immediate action and buy, right? And that's kind of the magic here. So that's another audience. Another audience could be somebody who's already making a lot of money, somebody who's making 6, 7 figures, right? Somebody who's making so much money, but they're working all day. They're a workhorse. They go, you know, I've wanted money, and they work their way up to the top, or they, guess what? They're an entrepreneur. They start up their own business. They say, I'm going to make money. They build a business from the bottom up. They're working with transactions all day long, and guess what? They realized that they created another job for themselves. They literally got out, and that's Chris and Susan Beasley, right? So they became accountants. They set it all up, and it was profitable, but there was like, we'd like to go hang out in the mountains, right? What are we doing here, right? So I think that's a perfect example of, well, maybe you want to be talking to that person. Maybe you want to be marketing to that person. You know, another person that you could be marketing to is somebody who's already got a team but not earning as much commission, specifically for people promoting Empower, right? Empower has the ability to give people higher commissions, right? So they already have teams. There are people all around us. I know people who have got teams in the thousands. I don't even know how they built it, but they've got teams in the thousands. And guess what? With something like what you're offering, that could create a massive income with the same amount of production that they know how to do. So some people already know how to recruit. Some people know how to build. They just need a better tool, a better system. So if you take a step back and you look at all of this, right, it could be the guy who wants to quit the corporate job. It could be the person looking for a retirement fund. It could be the person who wants to pay off their debts. Maybe they just have a lot of debt racked up. Maybe they have IRS debt and they need to make the money right away, right? So if you start to think about some of these things and you go, okay, well, making money and building an online business, yeah, maybe those are two of the key benefits. But is that the way I actually want to present what I'm actually doing to other people? And the answer 9 times out of 10 is no, right? Because the people who've already seen the opportunity or already seen the business, they've already seen it through those two methods. Hey, I'm going to show you how to build an online business. I'm going to show you how to make money on the internet. And guess what? It works and it converted. And then at some point, there's got to be different ways you've got to attract people, right? And when you consistently sit there and get innovative and get creative and say, okay, well, who do I want to speak to? And then not just sit there and think about it on your head, but interact with those people. Schedule appointments. Get on the phone. Talk to them. Get to know them. Get to figure out what they're looking for. And if you understand that person enough, you'll really know how to do marketing on a mass level. I think one of the biggest problems was when I was marketing online, I didn't know who I was talking to, and specifically when I shot videos, I was like, well, maybe you're this person, maybe you're that person, maybe you're this person, right? And what starts to happen is the person who's watching that video is like, well, I'm not that person, or I'm not this person, or I'm not this person, or like, who are you talking to? Because I don't know why I should be listening to you. And so what starts to happen is your videos, even though you're shooting videos all the time, nobody's digesting them, nobody's listening to them, nobody's watching them, nobody's interacting, nobody's commenting. And that all comes down to knowing who your customer is, speaking to them, and speaking about topics that are already happening in their head, right? So they go, how do you enter the conversation that's currently existing in their mind, right? So if we go back to the example I just shared before, there's the example of, hey, you know, there's a mother with a newborn child, right? So she's thinking in her head, right? She's thinking in her head, how do I stay home with my kids because I can't go back to work, right? She's thinking that in her head, right? She may not be saying it. She may not be talking to her friends or family about it, but it's here. And what happens is if you can present an ad that speaks to that conversation, she will take action on it. It doesn't mean she'll necessarily buy and sign up, but at least you would have done what the purpose of the ad to do is consistently get new leads within your target market into your business. And when you start to think about that, the reason why you get paid to market a business online or market your own business online or market somebody else's business online, whatever it is, you get paid because you present the information a specific way. And that information is unique and different. And that's all it is, right? Chris and Susan Beasley here, there's no difference between us and them or them and you. It's just that they're going ahead and presenting the information about what they're doing in a different way, right? That's it. It's just from their perspective. And sometimes you need to step in from your perspective and share it from where your values and what your beliefs are, and attract a group of people that are similar to you. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to attract a group of people you wouldn't want to hang out with all day, right? I think the metaphor is that, like, the reason why we're kind of in this business is that we can have, like, a cool group of friends that we can make money with, right? I mean, isn't that awesome that we can, like, build a business, have fun, and make money all at the same time? And that's kind of the magic here. It's not necessarily that we just make money. It's like Chris and Susan are like, hey, Amir, Will, come on out, you know, and we're like, yeah, let's do it. You know, let's have fun, let's teach, let's educate, you know, and that's kind of why we're here, right? So, Will, back over to you.
Yeah, so a couple of ideas. Now, all of this is leading into how do I actually interact with my audience? But the reason that Amir and I have spent so much time talking about this is that if you have no idea who your audience is, you don't know how to talk to them. And so just one or two more thoughts, and then I want to really dive down into I really want to dive down into the meat and potatoes here of what we want to talk about. Now, Amir and I planned out way more content than either of us are going to have the ability to share, and so we're going to take care of you guys. Don't worry. But we I think we put together a 5-point plan, and we're still talking about point number 1 here, and it is the most important point. The reality is that, again, if you don't know who's in your target audience, you don't know how to communicate to them. You know, my brother gave a metaphor maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago that I really like. He says you don't want to sell beef to a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian, right? So, you know, if you had the most exquisite cuts of beef and you were trying to chase me down and sell me beef, I would actually be repelled. Now, good marketing should, like Amir said, simultaneously attract the people you want and repel the people that you don't want. It needs to bring in the demographic that you're interested in, and it needs to push away the group that you're not interested in serving. It needs to bring in your ideal customer, and it needs to push out the customer that you don't serve that well. Not that they can't be served, but they're better off being served in another place or by different people. And so what you want to do is you essentially, if you have a beef store, you want to decide on serving, you know, a certain demographic. If you have a home-based business opportunity, you want to niche down to serve one client. It's not that you can't broaden out later, it's that your learning curve and your marketing is going to become incredibly more compelling if you actually know who it is that you're talking to. See, most of the people that we talk to inside of the industry have an email open rate that is under 5%. And so if you go into your email autoresponder and you look at your open rate, and your open rates are averaging right around the 5% range, or some people, what we've seen is low, but the worst I've ever seen was under 1%. This guy, you know, who shall remain nameless, at the time that we did our coaching interaction, he actually, you know, was going through his autoresponder, he was looking down, he hadn't looked at his data, he's like, Will, I've spent like $5,000 on leads, but nobody's opening the emails and nobody's buying. And so the very first thing I did was just ask him about who his ideal client was. And again, he had no ideal client. He was just going after solo ads that were kind of spread all over the world. They had a really broad range of demographics, and then he was just spamming them over and over and over again with every email being buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, and it was the message was all over the place because, again, he hadn't really focused in on any demographic. But when we went in and we looked at his open rates were actually consistently under 0.5%. Consistently. It's like almost nobody. I mean, he'd spent $5,000 on acquiring leads, but I mean, he might as well have just, you know, burned his $5,000. And so, you know, one of the fastest ways to prevent yourself from getting, you know, the wrong lead or having the wrong conversations or just having people immediately exit your list is to spend enough time to go ahead and really define the demographic and psychographic characteristics of your audience. So demographics would be like age, you know, average age range, your, you know, what gender are they, and, you know, all those things. So, you know, you want to put together the demographics. Where do they live? You know, what countries do they live in? What neighborhoods do they live in? What states do they live in? You know, what kind of jobs do they hold? What kind of jobs don't they hold? That's your demographics. Your psychographics has to do with the way that your customer thinks. And so the way your customer thinks is, in other words, it's a psychological profile or a psychological demographic. Inside of the psychographics, the key questions that you want to know about this market is you want to know, number one, what is their biggest fear? And if you have a pen, you're going to want to write this down. What is their biggest fear? Number two, what is their biggest dream or what is their biggest hope? What is their biggest problem? And then once you've got that narrowed down, then the question is how does your solution address that? See, nobody cares if you're talking to them about how many levels deep the comp plan pays or how much the commissions are if you're not connecting it with something important. And the something important is probably going to come from that psychographic profile. It's going to come from the part of the profile that says, well, let's say that my target demographic is ex-corporate workers who are 40 years old, 40 to 50 years old, who hate what they do and want to become more passionate about what they're doing. They want to live a life of passion, and that's their main thing. So what's the biggest problem? As I go into my ad copy, or if I'm writing solo ads, I'm going to look for people that, number one, that they meet the age demographic range. They're 40 to 50 years old. They live in the United States, and psychographically, they hate their job. They work for a big company, and they hate what they do. Now, if I go into just the advertising, it's easy to write email copy for them.
Was it me or did he freeze?
I think he's frozen, Amir, but we'll actually, while we wait for him to come back on, we'll actually just go into a little bit more detail on this because it really is so important, and I'm really glad that you both laid the groundwork for the target marketing before we got into the depth of the email and lead conversion, if you like.
How do you communicate?
Yeah, and the communication, because without that knowledge it would mean nothing. And I can tell you, we are like every other first-time entrepreneur when they come into this market. We just want to build leads quick. We buy, solo ads because we want to see some results quickly, and there's nothing wrong with that, but we have to understand that's only one market. And whilst I love your way of doing it, niche down first and then expand and expand and expand, like the Facebook example, most first-time entrepreneurs in the make money online home business come into it in the way we don't want them to necessarily, or would prefer that they didn't, because they want some success fast. And we fell into that exactly. We've got a big list yeah, in that market.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that when people buy solo ads, a lot of solo ad providers, the reputable ones, will tell you what their market is, and most of them will say to you, oh, it's internet marketing, if that's the industry you're in, or it might be, or they might be network marketers or something like that. But most of them will say, okay, so they're internet marketers now, or in the internet marketing niche. Now, what that means effectively is that these people are looking to use the internet to make money in some way, shape or form. Now, okay, you can be demographic in terms of, what we call the top 5 English-speaking countries rather than worldwide. So that's one thing. You should always buy traffic that is not worldwide. Why? Because you will end up with people on your list from India, Ghana, the African states, and it's not that you don't want those people, it's just that they cannot, in a lot of cases, they can't buy because of the country's credit rating or the ability to their banking situation and that. So although there might be lots of people there who want your stuff, and we've experienced this a lot, where people get in touch with us and say, oh, I live in Ghana, for example, and I want to buy this and I want to do this. Can I do it? And the first question is, for us, is do you have a credit card? And even if the answer is yes, 9 times out of 10, the majority of online credit card processing companies won't take the risk of cards from those sorts of countries. So you need to understand that you need to market to the top 5 English-speaking countries. So that's the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and there's a 6th one, Ireland as well. So you can specify that demographic with the solo ad provider. If they can't provide it, then don't go with them. It's as simple as that. You just it's a business decision. Now, when you get those people on your list, although you don't know the age demographic, you do know they speak English, and you do know they're looking to do something to make extra money. So even though it might not be a very narrow niche, they still have problems and challenges, just like Will was saying. They still have a big problem, they still have a dream, they still have a fear. And most of these things roll around, is this real? It could be, I've tried this before and it's never worked for me. So if you can address these problems, maybe they don't have the time, maybe they're frightened of technology, all of these things. Now, you don't know what they are specifically, but you've got them on your list. So if you communicate with your list about these topics, you will find that you will start to get a response. So that's what we wanted to say, Amir. So, but going back to what we were what Will was saying and what you were saying, I think you specifically about shooting videos and that. We shot some videos when we were in Charlotte. When was it? Back in June, wasn't it? We were in Charlotte. We'd set a target market of consultants and coaches and people who were in other professional service markets. And so we shot a video, and Susan introduced it and started talking about where we were and why we were there and what we just done, and because we come down from New York. And then it started with, so if you're a coach or a consultant or another professional service provider, you're about to understand you will understand exactly what I'm about to say. And so anybody who's not a coach or a consultant or an accountant or solicitor or whatever is immediately going to go, oh, this isn't for me. And that's exactly what I wanted. I don't want to talk to people who weren't in that niche, because I was going to talk to coaches and consultants in their language. Why was I going to talk to them in their language? Because I am a coach or I was a consultant, so it's very simple for us to do that. And that's one of the things that's, what Will and Amir are getting over to you, is that choose your niche, but when you're brand new, choose one that you can communicate confidently about, and you can communicate in their language. Because if you can communicate in their language without even thinking about it, going back to the single mums or the mum who wants to stay at home, you can start talking to them if you are one, and it's very simple.
So much easier. And even on social media, but I mean, we are specifically talking about communicating with your leads, your list, your subscribers. And before we going to hand you back to Will, because he's back online here. What I do want to say is, whilst we give them this name, lead, subscriber, list member, please, please, please understand they're people. They're people like you, they're people like Will, like Amir, like us. And whilst language and what we write and what we put in our videos and the way we communicate with them, sorry, it's the cat, no dogs, is important, please always remember that they are a person. We, particularly when we write to our list, we always say, hi friends, because that, if we don't know their name. And traditionally, when you are collecting leads through your marketing and your advertising, it has been very popular just to get an email address, which means you don't have their first name. When we first came online, it was fashionable to collect a first name, and that made it much more easy for us to personalize our emails. But you know, we go through these transitions and fashions change, and it is coming back to where we started over nearly 5 years ago now, to asking for somebody's name so that we can really and truly talk to them. Anyway, Will, we're going to give you back, so thank you for joining us again. I bet you were out with those dogs again, weren't you?
Yeah, I'll be back out with the dogs. Well, I have no idea what happened. My computer just froze and crashed, and but I'm back. So I know I probably missed some good stuff, and I caught the tail end there of what it was that you had to say. But let me go ahead and just pick up with this idea of where I left off. Essentially, if what we're doing is we're finding who it is that is inside of our target market, and like Amir said, we're consistently getting leads. Now the question is how do we communicate with them? Again, super easy to do if you're narrowly focused in on that range of demographics or psychographics. If you know what they hope for, what they dream for. Amir, I think that you and I have a worksheet that we call an avatar worksheet.
I have it pulled up.
Okay, you've got it pulled up. So we can make this available to Chris and Susan's list. I think we should give it to them as an attachment to just mail out. If you have not done this, take the time to really determine who your niche demographic is. I like to give them a name. You know, it's like, okay, you know, my target demographic's name is Jill, or it's Bob, and then we're going to describe Bob in detail, and we're going to go just, you know, from beginning to end about who he is and how he thinks. Once you've really got it narrowed down to what the biggest pain points are, what the biggest problems are, what the biggest hopes and dreams are, now you're in a place to effectively start to communicate with them. Now you can write your email sequences that do what it is that you want to do and get an open rate that's way above industry averages. And I have several lists where the average open rate is almost 40% across the email range. And this is a group of people who I intimately understand. I know who they are. I know what they're about. On Amir and I's list, we have consistently open rates in from the mid-teens up into the the 20% range, where people are literally just wanting to consume the information that we have. And then we have people inside of that list that open 100% of our emails, watch 100% of the videos. In fact, I think when we were just going through our stats, we've got like 1,000 people that basically consume almost 100% of what we have all the way through. They watch our videos to the end. They read every email. They click on every link. They opt in every form that we send out. So we have a really loyal following and fan base within this niche. And when you deeply understand the psychology behind the person that you're talking to, it's easy to write emails that get opened. Just like with the example that Chris gave. If he's speaking to coaches or consultants, he understands the psychology there because he was a coach and consultant for years and years and years. So he knows what the pain points are. He knows what the hopes and dreams are. He knows what the problems are. And it's really easy to speak to that. So if you want your emails open, think about who it is that you're writing to. Think about what their psychological breakdown is. So one of the things, this leads to one of the other big problems in the niche, and I kind of hinted at this earlier, and that is basically that what happens most of the time is that you attract a customer in by offering them something of value. This is called a lead magnet, or on a lead page, it's you're making a bold promise. You're saying, hey, watch this video and it'll give you the secret to X, or opt into my list and I'll give you a cheat sheet with to solve X problem, whatever it happens to be. Well, as soon as they assuming that you actually know who your client is, you can get these people to respond with a high degree of probability. If I am marketing to the home-based business market, and what I want to do is I want to market out to people who have a home-based business, I know two things about the group. Number one, very, very few people are getting leads on a consistent basis. Most people don't get enough leads, and their problem is that they have a lead list of under 100 people or something like that. It's like or the leads they've gotten are total garbage. They're rubbish. They're not worth anything because they're not targeted. They're like leads from a third world country that were bribed into, you know, opting in on some terrible solo ad or something like that. So the number one problem in that niche is leads. They have no idea how to get leads. The second problem in the niche is that for those that have leads and have a list, they don't actually know how to get sales. Here's one of the so if you don't get leads, defining the demographics and the psychographics, or what we call the avatar, is the way to solve that, because then you know how to go ahead and actually deliver on that promise. Or you know what to say to them, you know what they want. You're not chasing a vegetarian with your beef. You're saying you're chasing beef eaters with your beef, saying, you know, here's my beef, get my beef. But then what happens, and this is really the second problem, this is why people don't get sales, is they actually do understand their market, they do understand how to get leads, they're enticing people to join their list, and then the very first thing they're doing is they're saying to these people, buy my stuff. And then what they do is they stop providing any value to those leads, and the next 1,000 emails they send out say this: buy my crap, next email, 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 buy my crap. So what ends up happening is, or even on the thank you page, it's like I opt in, they're promising me something, the thing they promised to me was like half done, it wasn't even effectively done, and then the thank you page says buy my crap, right? So one of the ways to actually get people to buy things is to lead with value. And this brings us into our second point of 5. We have 5 tips for email marketing that can just radically turn things around for you. But the second major tip is, now that you know what the demographic profile is, I'm talking to single moms who just had, or young moms who just had a kid and want to stay home, and their deepest fear is they're going to have to leave their baby with a nanny, or they're going to have to leave their baby in daycare, and what they want to do is they want to be with their baby. Okay, so now we've got the psychology there. Now the question is how do I lead with value? In general, what we have seen is that your first 3 emails need to build a relationship. They need to build a response set in that audience. They need to build up you in their mind as an authority or as an expert. Now there's a couple of different ways to be an authority or expert, because I know some of you just said, I'm not an authority or expert, I'm just starting off, I'm just brand new. You can become an authority or expert by, number 1, having produced a massive result and talking about yourself, saying, hey, here are the results that I got, here are all the amazing things that I've done. And if you have results, you probably should talk about them. The second way to do it is to have other people talk about the massive results that you've gotten. The third way, and this is by far and away the most effective way of building credibility with an audience, is actually to show up and help them. You don't have to have a long resume. You don't have to have accomplished a million things. You don't have to be the top paid person in your market. You can say simply, if we're talking to that mom list, obviously I'm not a mom, but if I was one, I could say, hey, my name is Jane, and I'm a mom, and I just had a baby, and I know what it's like to think to yourself, am I going to have to leave my baby in daycare? And I can't even imagine what that would be like. I've put together a short training series, 3 videos, that are going to teach you how, as a young mom, you can actually stay home and spend more time with your young child. Okay? And so then you put together a short, value-based video series. And these videos don't have to be long. They could be anywhere from 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If you're like me or Amir, might be more like 50 minutes, right? Where we get a little excited and start talking for a long time. And in those videos, you teach them based on what their major pain point is, what their major problem is, and you give them real solutions. You lead with solutions. At the end of each video, or at the end of 3 videos, depending on how you want to do it, I tend to lean towards building a relationship first and then offering something around the 3rd or 4th video, is to go ahead and say, let's backtrack. This is the problem, this is the problem that you had. These are 3 solutions that you can have. And one of the next things that I'm going to be showing you is I'm going to be now showing you the system that I use to go ahead and stay home and spend more time with my child. And so there's a button right below this video. Click the link below, and it'll take you directly, and it'll explain a lot about what it is that I'm doing that can actually, help you out and give you the benefits of spending more time with your child. If you lead with value, 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 first 3 emails, value, 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 and then you make your offer somewhere around the 4th email or the 5th email, by the time they get there, they know you, they like you, they trust you, they can tell that you're one of them, and they are much more likely to resonate and respond with that offer. And the other beautiful thing that will happen is that if for some reason they got on your list and they're a mismatch, they're going to figure it out long before you've ever tried to sell them something. So I think this is about the time that we have to go over things. I know that I don't know what kind of time frame we're operating on under here, but Chris and Susan, why don't you guys pop back out? Amir and I will answer any questions that you might have for us around the material, and then we'll wrap things up. And what Amir and I were planning on doing, now I don't know if this is okay with you guys, so I'm just going to toss it out there. If it's okay, we'll do it. If not, that's fine. We were thinking in about 10 days we would have another webinar where we go over the pieces that we missed today in email marketing, and we make it available at a time that was like I think a Thursday. Amir, if you have the time, that'd be awesome.
Tuesday. It would be Tuesday, same time.
A week from tomorrow, same time basically, just to finish up, and we'll let Chris and Susan decide if they want to email that out or not, and that way we can give you the rest of the tips that we'd have for for marketing, and we'll send you out a form where you can opt in for that. But Chris, Susan, any questions or anything we can do to be of service to your team or to anybody here that might be listening?
Guys, you have absolutely been amazing, and I guess you must have an appointment to go to because
no appointments. I just don't want to overstay my welcome.
We're happy. I've got everyone here. They don't want you to go. They just want you to carry on. They want the other 3 tips.
Or do another half an hour.
Let's do a little bit more. I'm okay. I mean, I don't mind doing a little bit more. I just want to make sure that we're respecting everybody's time.
We're good. They want that. If you can manage sort of like 30 minutes, that would be fantastic, and it gives them the 5 things. Then we can hop back on and see how they're getting on. That would be absolutely fantastic. The response and feedback is, wow, this is just what I wanted. So
I think the other thing is what we'll your suggestion of doing another one in 10 or so days time would be fantastic. We're not here next week. We're actually going to Portugal on Monday for about 8 or 9 days.
We got to speak in Portuguese. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you about that. Do you guys speak Portuguese?
No.
No. Oh, yeah. Well, it's even more exciting then. I mean, you have like a window. I recommend like Rosetta Stone. Like go.
We'll be fine. But the thing is we can arrange something the following week or whatever. That would be brilliant, and then then we'll go from there.
This is such valuable training, and we really appreciate you guys. Sort of, we know this is your business. You're giving away so much value here, and I know everyone appreciates you. So carry on with your next point, please.
Well, I want to actually carry on with the point that I'm on, because this value sequence is. When I got this, it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I figure this out before? We're not telling people not to sell, and we're not telling people to avoid inviting people into their opportunity. But here's what we are saying: we're saying build some rapport with people. What's the easiest way to build and when I say rapport, I'm using it in a hypnotic way, meaning build response with people. What's the easiest way to build response with people? It's to serve them at their deepest need. What is the most powerful way to become persuasive? Offer a glass of water to a man who is dying of thirst in the desert, right? And I mean, if you do that, you are so freaking compelling. It just goes beyond saying. And this goes back into the idea of leading with value. So you ask yourself, metaphorically speaking, on this group of people that I want to target, on this demographic, how are they dying of thirst in the desert? What is their desert, and what would their glass of water be? And then offer them value around that topic. And when you do that, just absolutely, incredibly, and instantly you become more compelling than you could ever hope, dream, or imagine. And you don't have to be sneaky. You don't have to learn a language pattern to do it. And I'm not minimizing any of that stuff. Amir and I teach all that stuff, right? And that's incredibly useful. But just by figuring out what that glass of water is going to make you so much more valuable. So typically what we recommend our clients to do is as they're going through their email sequences is basically to go value, 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 offer. Value, 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 offer. Value, 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 offer. Right? In that range. And if you do that, it is going to dramatically and instantly increase the open rates, the click-throughs, and the interest and the response from your list. So, Amir, I've been talking for a while, and I don't know if you have anything else to say around that before we get into topic number 3. But let me go ahead and turn the microphone over to you, and I'll let you fill in any of the gaps I might have missed.
So, wonderful. Everything you said, Will, spot on. Everything Chris and Susan are saying, spot on. I think when we're talking about value, we're also talking about giving them enough of a piece of information that if they want more, that they kind of make a decision to go, I want some more, right? So you're giving them kind of like if you think about a restaurant. Before you give them the whole platter, give them the opportunity to taste the dish. If they taste the dish and they like it, and this is what we mean by demonstrate, right? How do we demonstrate? We demonstrate by knowledge. We demonstrate by education. We demonstrate by giving people the ability to do something that before they spoke to you or before they connected with you, they didn't think were possible, right? So if you think about that, your ability, right, and this is why Will and I became hypnotists, right, is because we found that we had the ability, or we learned how to communicate with people to open the door that they've always wanted to open for themselves, right? So you're here to help facilitate different opportunities in their life. And one of the ways you can do that is by sharing with them information that they would have never known otherwise. Like one of the most amazing things about being in like we're in a new like age. Like it's without a doubt like we're online, we're like marketing on the internet, we're making money, we can be anywhere and do all of that. It's absolutely amazing. Now if I walked up to some of my friends and started explaining what I did online, they would never understand it, right? Just because they're not looking for it. They're not the target market. They're not the person who's interested. But let's talk about this. You at some point are in this industry, but before you got into this industry, you had no idea what this was. You didn't know what a capture page was. You didn't know what targeted traffic was. You didn't know what an offer was, like at least, marketing it online. You didn't know you could earn commissions on the internet. For me, I didn't even know people could earn commissions on Amazon. I didn't know that there was this whole, I could make money off selling different things on the internet. That wasn't even an opportunity to me. That was just like, oh, I'm just trying to get my hypnosis clients on the internet, right? So for some of you, you just need to be the educators. And there's a lot of people out there who actually have no idea. You don't need to walk in and say, look how I made $5 bajillion online, right? Because that's not why people will join you. It may be some testimonial result that you know how to produce results. But guess what? Until that happens, you need to be the expert with a person who has no idea what online marketing is, right? Or just not as familiar. And guess what? You can make a killing with that, right? You don't have to talk about how much money you're making or not making, whether you're still in the grind or not. All you have to do is share information with somebody that doesn't know that information, and you will be perceived as the expert. So somebody who doesn't know anything about the industry, to you, knowing whatever it is you know, whether you're a week in the industry and you've just got started yesterday and you know what a blog is, or if you know what listening to audios, what you've learned in any one of those audios, that gives you information that you can talk about to educate the brand new person. And what will start to happen is you'll start to build this out. And another thing that Susan said that was perfect was they're not subscribers. They're not just people on a list. Yeah, I mean, they're not just emails on a list. These are actual people. You know what I mean? They're people, right? So when we say people, like Will and I said, like when we looked at our analytics, these people who are like clicking through and doing all these things, they're loyal followers, right? They're a fan base, right? They're people who will follow us whatever we're doing, right? And the reason why they're doing that is because we keep consistently creating value into their lives. We keep consistently giving them something. Whenever they watch, they want to know what I'm up to, right? I've got friends who are on my list for like 3 years now, and they keep coming back to my webinars, and they've bought everything already. And I go, what are you doing here? Like, why are you here? And he's like, I just want to know what you're up to. Every time I listen to you, I learn something, right? So they keep coming back. There's value, value, value. We're leading with value. We're creating enough value that it almost compellingly brings people to us, right? When you're bringing value to the table, this is what happened with Will and I. Somebody who were just on our webinars and just on our list told somebody else who told somebody else who told somebody else about us, right? And what happened was like four trains, and none of them had bought anything except that last person who came all the way up to us and said, hey, I heard you guys are doing yada, 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 and you guys know what you're doing, and we want to get started with you. And so what started happening is because we're building such great value in the marketplace, our marketplace is doing the marketing for us, right? We don't actually have to go out there as hard. Now, we still will, and we still will continue to, but it just shows you that there's some value that we're giving away that attracts people towards us. And so demonstrate your skill set if you have any, and if you don't, that's okay. Start going through some information. Start going through some basics on how to set up an ad, and start putting it out there. Get your first couple of leads. Go through setting up a page. There are so many people in this niche who are having problems setting up a lead page. There are so many people in this niche who are having a problem setting up their first ad. If you can just help the person and you do it once, you instantly become the expert, right? And it's not because like you know better than other people. You just know a little bit more than what they know. And that's what really is going to give you the foundation, the starting ground to get you from wherever you are to the next step where you can go, okay, I've got some skill set, I got 10 leads, I'm going to shoot a video about it. I'm going to explain what I did. I remember I did this. I think I got 6 people signed up in 24 hours, and it was like my first biggest like breakthrough. I was like, oh my God, I just learned how to recruit a couple people in a day. And I shot a video on exactly what I did, the email I wrote, the thing I sent out, and I explained to them what I was doing, and I explained why I did it, and explained the thought process behind it. And I put this video out online, and I literally got like 50 people coming towards me. Amir, can you coach me? Amir, can you mentor me? Amir, can you help me out? And what started happening was some of those people started joining my team. Some of those people started buying from me. Some of those people started buying more of the products, right? And it started happening because I learned something, I did something, I applied what I learned, got a result, took that result, and created a bigger result, right? And I started getting more people reaching out to me. Then it started reaching this place where more people were reaching out to me than I had the time to deal with them, right? And I had to start increasing my prices. Otherwise, I just didn't have the time, right? And then Will and I got together, and we started doing things together, right? So when you think about it, all you've got to do is focus on, learning a little bit more, right? Applying what you've learned, and create value in other people. If you ask the question, I think Will and I ask this question all the time, we sit there and we say, how can we shorten your learning curve? How can we get you from wherever you are in the past, right, to like up to our speed as quickly as possible, right? What information could we share that we didn't know that was most critical to us, that was responsible for the decisions and the actions that we take, that was responsible for the internal strategies that we were taking place into marketing? And identifying your target market is one of them, right? The second one is leading with value, right? And then the third one is I'll wait for Will to tell you that, right? And so that's what it is, right? And we'll tell you that's a secret hypnotic technique. I won't tell you what it is yet, but.
Well, actually, if I can, I'd like to share one more analogy on this piece, just to tie this up, and then yes, we will probably have time to introduce the third one. I don't think we're going to have time to go into it. Maybe we can talk a little bit about the big broad topics, so everybody has the full map, and then again we'll invite you back. We'd love to have you get a full picture. I mean, these ideas revolutionized the way that I was doing email marketing online. They will set you apart from 95% of the email marketers on the planet. And again, the beauty of the system that Amir and I are teaching is you don't have to have massive results to be of help. All you've got to do is have a heart to help people. And if you can go in and just say, hey, listen, maybe I'm not the biggest, baddest guru in the niche, but here's what I do have. I have a heart, and I'm here to help. Right? And I can roll up my sleeves and I can teach you 2 or 3 things that have made a massive difference in my life. Why don't you come along? I'll save you some time. And again, if you're speaking to the right problem, if you're speaking to the right pain point, people will listen. And they'll listen just because you are you and you're there with a heart to help. That's all it takes. It's the most dramatic and easy way to establish credibility and authority is just to be an amazing human being and go out and help. This is one thing I really like about Chris and Susan. And it's one of the things that attracts me about Amir as well. It's one of the reasons why he and I work together as business partners. We believe in just going out and helping. And maybe we don't have it quite perfect. Maybe we don't have all the ninja secrets. And maybe there's more that we could learn. And we're in a constant state of learning more each and every day, whether we're attending live workshops or whether we're reading a book or whether we're just brainstorming with each other or thinking about the principles that we've had. But each and every day we're committed to improve ourselves so that we can turn around and help you. In the same way, you can say that to your folks. Hey, guys, listen. I'm no guru. I'm not some guy on the top of a mountaintop. I don't have all this perfect. But you know what? I've figured out a few things, and I'm here to help. I'm here to help you. I'm here to teach you those things. And I bet when you do what I do that you can see the results for yourself, and I'll tell you what, tomorrow I'm going to be better than I am today. And the day after I'm going to be better. And a year from now you won't even recognize where I'm at because of this constant and never-ending improvement that I'm engaging in. So here's my last metaphor. Then I'll transition in and we'll teach one more principle. This is the principle of, again, I call it the glass of water in the desert principle. If I know that you are dying in the desert, you don't have any water, and you're just absolutely parched. If I show up and say, hey, guess what? I've got a glass of water. You're going to just drink it down. Now, how would you respond then if I said, I'm going to come back tomorrow with another glass of water? I'll meet you where you're at. I'll bring you one more glass. You're going to start to anticipate that. You're going to start to wait for it. You're going to start to hope and dream about that glass of water. You're going to be crawling through the desert all day long thinking, oh, I'm so thirsty. But you know what? Will said he's going to be back tomorrow. And he said he's got another glass of water for me. And then I show up, another glass of water, and you drink it down. Hey, I'll be back tomorrow with another glass of water. And, third time you're back with a glass of water. Day 4 I show up and I say, hey, you know what? I can show you where the well is. I can show you where this well is, where you can get a glass of water anytime you want, and you won't have to crawl through the desert thirsty anymore. Come on and join me. I'd love to show you what I'm doing to get as much water as you can ever imagine. I mean, this offer is so freaking compelling to the person who's, just parched in the desert. It's unbelievable. Another way to think about it is the favorite food metaphor, right? Amir has told me that one of his favorite foods is Nutella, right? And I know we have some other Nutella fans probably on the call. Right? Well, imagine how compelling it becomes if I go up to you. Let's say that your favorite food is Nutella. If you hate Nutella, pick whatever else your favorite food might be. And I show up to you and I say, I've got a little bit of Nutella for you for free. And I just kind of, put a little bit on a nice cracker, cookie, or something like that, give it to you, you're like, oh, this is amazing, right? And then I say, you know what, tomorrow I'll be back with some more Nutella, just a little bit. And then third day, I've got some more Nutella for you. And then the fourth day I come back and I say, I can show you where you can get Nutella anytime that you want. This strategy flat out works. It flat out works. So remember, lead with value, 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 offer. Value, 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 offer. Along with this strategy is an idea that we call the difference between a campaign and a promotion. And I'm just going to touch on this, then I'm going to move on. So a campaign is a well-structured email sequence, usually involving about 7 to 10 days worth of emails that is aiming at one outcome. A promotion, on the other hand, is one email that is just saying, here's some information, here's a way to make a decision. Amir and I recommend that you build campaigns and you stop doing mostly promotions. Now, we're not saying you can't do promotions now and again, doing a one-off offer, but you're much better off building up your responsiveness on your list by delivering campaigns instead of promotions. So what that means is, so your first campaign sequence, Amir and I call an indoctrination sequence, and we could literally teach for like a month straight on all the things that need to go into an indoctrination sequence and how to structure it so it's hypnotic and persuasive and all those things. But for now, just think about this. You're going to reverse engineer it. You're going to ask basically, okay, by the end of the campaign, by the end of like 10 days, what is it that I want this person going through the campaign to do? And then how can I create value for them along the way so that by the time I get to the point where I'm making offers, they're thanking me for bringing them a glass of water because I'm in the desert, right? And if you do that, then you have 10 days to go ahead and build your offer. If you think about this, in the old days, they used to do a thing called a long-form sales letter. And for those of you who don't know anything about copywriting, I mean, you can find examples of old and even new sales letters that are anywhere between like 7 pages long, 5 pages long, and maybe upwards of 20 pages long. We're talking some of these long sales letters will have 20, 30, 40,000 words in them. And it's lots of information. It's going through all the psychology points. And if we had more time, we could talk about the order and structure and sequence of long-form copy. But basically, what you do in a campaign sequence is you take that letter and rather than delivering 40,000 words of content that very, very few people are going to consume, is you break apart the different pieces of that sales letter and you put them into video content and email content structured over about a 10-day sequence. So at the end of the 10 days and at the end of the 7 days, you've given them a long-form copy. You've gone through all the elements of helping them and establishing credibility and social proof and scarcity and on and on and on and on, right? And building desire and going through features and benefits. But you're doing it in a way where it's broken up into a really logical sequence. So most of the email autoresponder sequences that we see, there's no cohesion there. It's like one email isn't connected to the next email. And the third email has nothing to do with the first two emails. And so people come onto a list and there's a really disjointed feel to what's going on inside of the email copy. And so it becomes very, very odd and it tends to repel people, or people go, well, this isn't that valuable, and they move you into the promotions tab or they move you into the spam box. If you have a really coherent message, something that builds every day, builds on the last day, in a campaign, meaning you only have to think through about 10 days at a time. Reverse engineer what you want, think about the critical components of the sales message, and even just the credibility, serving, I'm here to help message, and then every email builds on the last email. Every email has something to do with the last thing that you sent out. It's like now all of a sudden it all makes sense, right? And when you've got that, people respond. I mean, bottom line is people respond better to campaigns than they do to promotions. So if you're primarily doing promotions, which is a one-off email with a call to action, and then the next email is disjointed and calling to action, stop doing that. Start thinking in 10-day sequences. I would recommend that your first 30 days absolutely be connected. Probably 4 campaign sequences or 3 campaign sequences back to back to back to back. And so that's kind of a side tip that has to do with creating value. It also has to do with logical flow and making sure that all the critical elements are in place for what it is that you're looking to build and create. Okay, so the next one is how do I create response? So principle 1 is consistently get leads with the right targeted audience. So you've got to niche down to get rich. Number 2 is to lead with value and to build the value inside of a campaign sequence rather than in promotional emails, meaning a one-off promotion. You can do one-off promotions every once in a while, but mainly these campaign sequences. The third principle is to build responsiveness. And to do this, I want to talk to you about a hypnotic principle. This is a principle called the law of pyramiding. And just think about being a hypnotist for just a minute, because this will make perfect sense for you here in just a second. But as a hypnotist, now I'm not a stage hypnotist. Amir isn't a stage hypnotist. We're the kind of hypnotists that help people have mental breakthroughs, get big changes in their lives. But if you're a stage hypnotist and you want to get somebody to bark like a dog, right? How do you go about doing that? Well, typically speaking, it's not the very first thing that you ask somebody to do. You don't just bring them on stage, pop them into hypnosis and say, bark like a dog. If you do, they're unlikely to do it. So instead, you've got to build a response set by asking for little things first and then building in sequence to larger and larger and larger and larger commitments until the person has gotten to the commitment that you want them to make. And so inside of this idea of pyramiding, it's like turning a pyramid upside down, and you start with just the tip of the pyramid, and then as you go, you move farther and farther along until you're asking for bigger and bigger and bigger commitments, right? So let me give you
You're going to expose the secrets of hypnosis on this webinar right now? You're going to teach them how to hypnotize people in this very webinar?
Right?
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. This is awesome. This is just good stuff. So let's say that we wanted to, taking just a ridiculous example of getting someone to bark like a dog, which is neither here nor there with anything that we're doing, but then we'll come back around and give one or two concrete examples. I'm going to have to leave right at the 2:30 mark, my time, which is in about 5 minutes. And but at that point, we'll turn it over to you guys and let you guys do as you will here. Maybe Mir has a few parting words that he'd like to say. But so we want someone to get someone to bark like a dog on stage. We're going to invite them onto stage, and first off, we're going to make sure that we get the right target audience on stage, because we'll tell you a secret: for the stage hypnotists don't want everyone on their stage. They only want a certain demographic. Statistically, we know that about 1 in 10, it's just over 10%. It's usually like 11 to 12% of the general population makes really good stage people. They're really entertaining, they're outgoing, and they'll do pretty much anything that you ask them to do, right? Within reason, as long as you massage it and build it the right way. So first off, you're selecting your target audience, you're narrowing in on that audience, you're getting the right audience up onto the stage, and then once they're up on the stage, then you're going to start off with a really small commitment. You're going to ask people, for example, to close their eyes and relax, which is something that pretty much, if they're going to raise their hand and show up on the stage, 100% of the audience is willing to do. So they close their eyes and they relax their body. Now, it's not really that we want them to close their eyes and relax, and it's not really that closing their eyes or relaxing has anything to do with hypnosis, but those are two little teeny tiny commitments that pretty much 100% of the population is going to do. It's the tip of the pyramid. Well, then the next little commitment that we ask, that might be asked for, might be to open their eyes again and then close their eyes. And as they close their eyes, to relax deeper. This is the second commitment. Now, the third commitment is going to be to remember your favorite dog, right? Or remember a time when you were around a dog. Perhaps you had a dog and the dog was pleasant, the dog was friendly, and the dog loved you. And just imagine what it would like to be that dog. And you don't have to really do anything, but just imagine what it's like to be the dog. And so then the person is imagining being the dog, right? Next little commitment. And you kind of see that they're imagining that, and you can see it in the body language. Usually there's something little funny, and you might think about how much you love that dog. Well, the next thing is you might imagine the sound that dog makes as that dog barks, right? And you might even imagine what it would sound like from your own voice. Now, we're not asking them to do anything. We're just asking them to imagine what it would sound like coming out of their own voice. And now maybe under your breath, you could just go ahead and mimic that noise. Not loud, not for anybody else, just for yourself, just so that you can kind of remember that deep connection that you have with that dog. And then it's like, right? You get a little bark, right? We've taken one step up in the pyramid. And then we go, and now, just imagine what it's like to bark like a dog and stand up and bark like a dog and show your love for your dog by barking. Right? And, the person just goes wild on stage. Now, I'm not a stage hypnotist, and it's not my job to teach you how to get people to bark. But, think about this from another commitment. This is an example I've been using for years. In sales, if you ask for too big of a commitment early, it's like just meeting someone you're dating, and you just met them and you're asking them to marry you. Right? I mean, you walk into the bar, you see someone beautiful, you walk up to them and say, "Will you marry me?" Right? And they're like, "Whoa, freako, psycho guy," right? It's too big of a commitment too fast. You've started with the bottom of the pyramid instead of just the teeny tiny little tip. And so as you're building responsiveness in your list from list psychology, your first couple of commitments need to be small commitments, but it is true that almost instantly inside of your list, you want to start to ask people to do things. In fact, if you were to ask me, Will, what's the purpose of copywriting? I would say the purpose of copywriting is simply to get people to take action. And if they're not taking action, it doesn't matter how entertaining it is, it doesn't matter how beautiful it was, it doesn't matter if it was grammatically perfect. If your copy does not get people to do things, it has not served its purpose. And your first commitment should be something very, very, very small and easy to do. And with that, I'm going to turn that over to Amir. I've got to sign off, guys. I'm going to say goodbye. We would like to continue this a week from Tuesday if we can get it squared away. We'll talk to Chris and Susan. If not, we'll figure out another time to do it. I think Amir and I have a time picked out where we could do it, and we'd be happy to make sure that we get that out to you. And so look for it in the email or however Chris and Susan decide to go for that. But Chris and Susan, I probably do have time for one question. If anybody has a question or there's any thought on your mind, I'd be happy to answer it. And if not, I'll turn it over to Amir.
Well, thank you so much. Woof.
I was barking too.
All right, guys.
Bye. Take care. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you.
All right. Yep. Bye-bye.
Amir, that was so funny because as Will was saying that, I actually was practicing barking in the back of my throat. It's really strange, and yet it is about bringing people into the experience, and this is what we're talking about. I mean, I'm going to let you finish this little bit of training, and then we want to just add something on the end that's really important for everyone to understand, because they may have already built one list, and if they're going to start defining their new target, then they need to create a list specifically for that. Otherwise they're going to be talking dog training to thousands of people who don't want to know about dog training, whereas they only really need to be talking to a small sector of people who want to learn to bark. So back to you for a minute.
So I do want to say that this is a perfect point, Susan, like perfect, spot on. Another thing, one of my mentors that I've been like working with is he's got a list of under 1,000 people. He runs his own business. He's not an affiliate. He doesn't have his own home business. He has a list of under 1,000 people, and he makes close to $1 million a year. I think over $1 million a year, right? So what does that tell you? The list doesn't need to be big. It needs to be targeted, and it needs to be responsive. And if you have a targeted, responsive list, that's where the magic comes from. And if you know how to effectively create this process, just like Will said with the upside down pyramid here, and if you know how to help them take those steps, step by step, smaller commitments leading into bigger commitments, and you know how to guide that process through. Some of you feel like you want to marry somebody on the first time you meet them, but guess what? You may need to take a step back and say, okay, well, what are some of the steps that we can begin to introduce piece by piece? First one is get on our list. Second one is check out this training video. And then when they check out the training video, hey, check the next email. They check the next email. Hey, check out this next training video. Hey, they've checked out this video. Leave a comment below. They left a comment below. Check out the next training video. And when you walk them through this smaller to larger commitment sequence, the people who are commenting on your videos, who are opening your emails and clicking through, if they're going through this entire process, when they get to video 4 or video 5 inside the campaign and they get the offer, they're more likely to click on that buy button and actually fill out the credit card information because we've walked them through the sequence. And that's kind of like the true understanding of saying, okay, I'm going to lead with value, I'm going to create that response set, and then I'm going to offer them something. And throughout the process, we're giving them instructions. We want them to follow those instructions, but we want those instructions to be small, simple, easy, and not something too hard or too big. And if we follow it through, by the time they get to the end of the process, you'll find that more customers will buy, more leads will be responsive to you, more of your list will enjoy what you're doing. So one of the ways you can do that is by creating another list inside your autoresponder. If you have Aweber, GetResponse, it doesn't matter, and build that list and build it according to your avatar. Build that out. Now, it doesn't mean that you like disregard your old list, but another way to reactivate that list is I'm going to just give away this free strategy right now, is to take that mailing list that you've built out, the list of leads that are not responding to you, go into Facebook, and you can upload your email list to Facebook and set ads to retarget them. This can reactivate some of your list and get those leads onto your newer list, or get them to become awake. So a strategy like that is something really easy and simple to do. You just download your emails, upload it. Facebook will find out which ones are it, create an ad, and that ad could be different. In fact, we do this with our current list right now. We take our list, we upload it to Facebook, and we let our list know that we're doing a webinar. We email them, and we also advertise them on Facebook, right? And then a similar strategy could be used for leads that aren't responding. So we've got those are the 3 keys that we've covered today. We've got 2 more, and we'll save that for another webinar upcoming in the future. So look out on your email. Chris and Susan will be sending that out. I hope there's any other questions or anything else that needs to be answered right now.
Amir, thank you so much. We'll probably get the questions will come through afterwards, because a lot of people jump on here partway through, or they watch the replay because of the time zones and people are working and stuff like that. So we'll get back to you with that. If you could let us have that that PDF you were going to put together that will help people to define their market, that would be awesome, because we can let everyone have that. I think Chris wants just to cover a couple of things that are really important for everyone here tonight. And thank you, everyone stuck with us, which is amazing, and that they just don't want to go. So we really appreciate how valuable your time is. So if you want to hang on for a few minutes, that would be fantastic. Otherwise, if you've got to go, we totally understand.
I can hang out here in the background. Another thing that I'd also say is, if you guys need our help, you can message Will or I on Facebook. We're always happy to help. I'll send that PDF over to you right now while I'm in the background here, and so you'll have it right away, so you can send it out.
That'd be brilliant. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It's huge value, and I think everyone will get that in their head if they can treat their subscribers, their friends in their list the same way we're treating everybody here live tonight. That's what you need to do.
Yeah. So the thing is as we said earlier on, a lot of people have built lists of opportunity seekers or people who are in the internet marketing niche looking to make money online. And one of the things we will do, we've actually got a PDF of some of the challenges that we've thought about that these people have, because they're not specifically niche, they're more generic, but certain things about them, that they are looking to change something, they are looking for extra money. Certain things about it. So we've got a PDF that we put together for you that will help you identify some of their problems and frustrations and what it is they're looking for. And I think also, one of the things that Amir touched on just now, and maybe we'll expand a little bit more in the next webinar, is that think about how you can draw people out of that big general list that you've got into more smaller lists. And what Amir said was, offer them something. Maybe you're going to do a webinar, or maybe you've got some more free training, or maybe you've got access to a webinar like this, for example, where somebody else is doing some training that's really valuable to people who are on your list. So you can find out the people who are responsive by writing to that list in general and saying, if you want to learn about email marketing or whatever it is, some really good friends and mentors of mine have got a webinar on tonight, or I've got a recording of a webinar they did last night. Opt in here and I'll send it to you. So what you've now done is you've got them to make a commitment, and therefore you put them on a new list, and you now know that they're interested in whatever the topic of the webinar is about. And now you've got something, something more about them, so know something more you can talk to them about, offer them more value about, and ask them to buy. If people don't opt in, then you know that realistically for those people the time is not right. So it's just, you just got to start to think about how you can differentiate, break down your list. Susan and I have been doing it for a while, and I can tell you that it works. Because we had this big list of opportunity seekers because it's what we were told. And now you're starting to say, well, okay, how can I break this list down? How can I find out the people who really want to find out more about what we do? And how can I find out the people who don't? Because there are a lot of lazy people out there. People won't unsubscribe. They don't go, oh, I'm not interested in this, I'll unsubscribe. They just stay there. And then at some point they may wake up, but most don't. So, just a couple of tips there on things you can do. So we've got some information coming out from Will and Amir. We've got some information coming out from us.
Yeah, we'll put it just below the.
Yeah, we'll put the link. We'll put the links below the
That's
hangout
it.
so you can grab that information. Probably be done. We'll get ours out there tomorrow. So.
And one thing I just do want to say, if you're an absolute newbie here, you've just come to this and you've just got started, and there will be people like that. We've got people on our own team who are just like that. Don't be overwhelmed by all this. Take it on board that if you go through this slowly and you do it bit by bit, you are having the very best education from people who truly know what they are talking about. It's why we have guests like Amir and Will come on board with us on a Monday night if we're not just doing generic training ourselves, because they have the specific experiences and can train you on specifics that are really and truly going to help you build your business. So we don't want you to be scared. We don't want you to be overwhelmed by it all, but just take it slowly, step by step, and know that you've actually got a huge advantage that we never had. We didn't have any of this when we got started. We had to find out for ourselves, and we found out by going to Google and typing in, how do I do this, how do I do that, and just got on with it. We're shortcutting everything for you here on our Monday nights live.
And let me just finish with one thing that might help people who are brand new. Now, when we first came online and we met our mentor, we came across our mentor, started talking to him. He was 27 and I was 55. The thing is he said, okay, so you need to go and open an autoresponder. And we go, what? Never heard of an autoresponder. It's what Amir was saying earlier on. You don't realise how much information you have just by learning one thing compared to all of the people out there who don't know anything about online marketing, the home business industry, online, building a business online, and unless it's terminology. And when I got asked, okay, go and get an autoresponder, I didn't have a clue what an autoresponder was. I'd never heard of the word. And so, all of a sudden, if you know what an autoresponder is because somebody told you yesterday, then you've got information that you can share with people who are totally brand new and haven't got a clue. The training is, oh, did you know there's such a thing as an autoresponder? Do you know what you can really do with that? It means you can send one email to thousands of people in one go, or I'll tell you what, if you've got a full-time job, and you don't have time to sit and write emails every single day or every other day, this autoresponder thing will do it for you. So you write 5 emails and you put them in the autoresponder, and then when somebody comes along and says, oh, I'm interested in your information, it sends it out for them, for you, and you don't even have to be there. So there's a training on autoresponders that you can give to somebody who's totally brand new and doesn't have a clue that an autoresponder exists. So for those of you who are totally new watching this and you don't have you're going, I don't know what to train about, I haven't got a clue, just think about something you've learned. That simple. So that's it from me.
And I want to add to this just before we conclude. Don't be fearful, because Will and Amir and we talk about videos, doing a series of videos. We know that's a step too far for some of you. We teach you that the best way to build a relationship with your subscribers, the people who want to do something with their life for whatever reason, you can write it on a blog. That is where your blog is so valuable. And I get questions all the time on Facebook. What shall I use my blog for? Why do I want it? If you can't do videos and stuff, and you don't want to upload them to YouTube and all that kind of stuff, just write it. Write what you've learned in a blog and share that blog post with people on Facebook and with your subscribers. That's how you build value. Okay? That's how you build value, and that's the second point that you've been taught tonight. So do not worry about it. There are ways and means of doing these things, and you know, if you've been thinking, what the heck do I blog about? Well, now you know. You know, it's going to be pretty easy.
So guys, if you've got any questions or whatever, we'll be monitoring them. Put them down below the video, and you know, because some of you are at different parts of this video. It's the one great thing about Hangouts. People can come on late and still continue to watch it to the end, even when we finished, because YouTube allows that to happen. So I think we're done.
Yeah, we're done. Amir, thank you so much for your time. You and Will are doing an amazing job. Your business, you are spot on with your target market. Trust us. We are so looking forward to working with you guys, because you've already added so much to our lives, and we know that you and Will particularly can help Chris and myself hugely, and that just takes the whole thing out to the universe at the end of the day. So thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we'll fix up with you for the continuation. I'll send you a note in Facebook and we'll get that fixed up.
Perfect. I sent you the avatar sheet so you can send it out to your list. And everyone, I do want to say thank you for listening to us. If you're looking for blogging tips and strategies, hit replay, watch it all over again. Anytime you learn something, write about it. Anytime you learn something, shoot a video about it. And I'll tell you a quick way to get over your video phobia, if you have one. Shoot a lot of them and then delete the ones you don't like. And I'll tell you what, if you shoot like 50 videos, I don't care if the first 49 turn into garbage or something, 50 will start to be good. And the quickest way to overcome that is just to take action. So Will and I shared a lot. Chris and Susan Beasley shared a lot. And already with what they shared, you can build out a campaign. You can talk, just like Chris said, you can start with an autoresponder sequence, and then you can start talking about, hey, target market or anything like that. And you can start building some of these pieces out, and you could totally market to the brand new person, get them in, give great value, and make money in your business. So with that being said, thank you all for having me on. It was a great pleasure, and I'm glad I could serve each and every one of you here.
Thank you so much, Amir. You've been absolutely amazing. Can't wait to talk to you again. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.